Now, this had killed the market for, of course. So now this had killed the market for, of course.
Um, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen that are watching me now on Black Fire Network. My name is INNOSSETU, and I'm broadcasting live from Kampala, Uganda. Yeah, today we managed to, of course, to have rains in Uganda today. It rained overnight, and of course, from morning for some 2 hours, from 7 to 9, it was raining in the morning. And we're glad because sunshine was too much, but everything's moving very well. Let me hope you're doing good wherever you're watching me from. This is Straight Talk Show from Monday to Friday. We are ever here on Black Fire Network, and of course, if you're watching me for the first time, endeavor to like and subscribe our YouTube channels, different YouTube channels of Black Fire Network, and of course, Twitter, like, follow, Facebook is Black Fire Radio Station. Yeah. Today's topic, the topic of discussion today is about polygamy, and we are going to see the reasons why uh, polygamy is fading now in Africa. Yes, prior in Africa, we used to have a polygamous system to to a greater extent, but we see these things declining. The issue of polygamy is declining in Africa. We know that we know that polygamy in Africa has existed throughout the history of Africa. So you can't separate polygamy and history of Africa. These two things move together. So if you talk about social life of African people, you can't fail to talk about polygamy. We see that polygamy, particularly, is of course a highly valued social institution in Africa, and of course, polygamy is a marriage between a man and a woman, and their multiple spouses. So polygamy is all about having a lot of women, like having spouses. You get married to a number of spouses. So that is what is called polygamy. So polygamy is, of course, a marriage between a man and multiple wives in another way. So we see that polygamy is a marriage between a man and multiple husbands. However, a common expectation for African kings and African society is the African kings to, of course, to symbiotically unify his kingdom and society throughout partaking in polygamous marriages with wives from a broad range of clans within the society. By doing so, the king reduces the chance of discontent and rival forces developing in rising against him. When we look at uh, African, um, African kings, even up to now, these are people who used to marry from different clans across, within and outside the kingdom, so that for their security purposes and of course to expand the kingdom. So this can be termed as polygamous system or polygamy in short terms. So talking about the history of polygamy in Africa, when you talk about North Africa, and of course particularly in Egypt, evidence of polygamy in ancient Egypt can be found among both the Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom. So during the dynastic rule of course, Amenophis the third, the numerous polygamous marriages between the Amorphinus the third and foreign princesses occurred, which later led to the princesses being buried in Valley of Queens, along with the following description of them as part of the harem of the king. So she of the numerous um, Knights in the city of the brilliant Aten, she who appears in glory in the temple of the brilliant Aten, and she who strives with the fury of the brilliant Aten. So, an example of polygamy from a 20th dynasty, and that is Egypt period of papyrus, which is one of the amongst the several other examples from the 20th dynasty that highlight grave robberies, highlights the tribunal case of gold worker remorse during the case of Matehem. His wife indicated during her testimony that he had two dead wives and another wife who was not dead. Notably, so remorse was subsequently brought to trial to grave robbery and not polygamy. So while, of course, Herodotus characterized the ancient Egyptians as being monogamous, we see that Herodotus characterized the ancient Egyptians as being polygamous. So, we see that in accordance with the marriage customs of the Egyptians, the priests have but one wife, but any other man he takes as many as he may determine. So the Egyptians are required to raise all their children in order to increase the population on ground that large numbers are their greatest factor of increasing prosperity and the country city. So another place where, of course, polygamous marriages were exhibited in Africa, in the ancient Africa, we see that the West Africa, we can't fail to talk about Ivory Coast, where we see that following the development of Ivory Coast's first national census in 1975, we see that 23% of the men were found to be participating in polygamous marriages in 1988. We see that and the average polygamist man was found to have 2.3 wives, with higher rates of polygamy found in rural areas than Abidjan. So from 1955 to 1988, rates of polygamy in Ivory Coast remained fairly consistent, occurring with 4 out of the 10 married women, though there was some decline found in rural areas from the early 1960s and 70s. The other, of course, country we see Mali between the 12th century and the 15th century. Polygamy was a cultural practice of the Mali Empire in the Mande narrative of the Sudanita and Keita's epic. We see that Keita partook in polygamous marriage with the two women whom he had children with and whose children were in political competition with one another. So the other is Mauritania. And of course, talking about household in Mauritania may have been used by extended families or polygamous families at locations such as Akrigeti. So in East Africa, Uganda is one of the countries where we see during the kingdom of Buganda, the king of Buganda partook in polygamous marriages to reduce the chance of distant and rival forces developing and raising against him. And of course, we see customs, polygamous marriages can be characterized into customs like here in, of course, in Uganda, particularly in the Buganda kingdom. It is a custom for a king to get married to various clans. First of all, to expand the clan, to for security reasons, and other kind of reasons. But talking about customs in North Africa, we see that while monogamy was predominant among ancient Egyptians, neither customs and traditions nor laws of ancient Egyptians criminalize polygamy. So a husband treating his wife well, family stability, and wholesome cooperating was encouraged. So the act of adultery was socially stigmatized. So women could also compose their own marital contracts, which may have contributed to lower rates of divorce and opportunities for, of course, polygamy. Kings of ancient kingdom partook in polygamous marriages. Politically arranged, of course, polygamous marriages occurred between male members of the royal family and foreign princesses. So while lower class and middle class men mostly could not afford to financially support more than two wives or wife, and of course, Chubins, kings, and upper class men could afford to engage in polygamy, with kings having many wives, and Chubins and upper class men having at least one wife and some Chubins. So it can be difficult to draw broad conclusions about the ancient Egyptians and polygamy due to frequent ambiguity found among available evidence from ancient Egypt. For example, a 20th dynasty period of papyrus includes the following common example found among available evidence. So the citizens we see that a wife A, the wife of B, and the citizen C, his wife in total two. So a Watterson states regarding this common example, the reference may be two contemporaneous wives on the other hand. So wife A may have been divorced or dead before being married C. So there is nothing to indicate which was a real state of affairs in these kind of marriages. So we see that less ambiguous evidence for polygamy in ancient Egypt can be found among both Middle Kingdom and New Kingdom. Examples from Middle Kingdom involve people from among the bureaucratic class of ancient Egypt. An example from papyrus, which is one among several other examples from the 20th dynasty that highlight grave robberies, highlight the tribunal case of gold worker Ramos, and of course during the case of Mateheb, his wife indicated during her testimony that he had two dead wives and another wife who was not dead notably. So Ramos was subsequently brought to trial for grave robbery and not polygamy. So during the dynastic rule of Amenophis III, numerous polygamous marriages between Amenophis III and foreign princesses occurred in Egypt, which later led to the princesses being buried in Valley of Queens along with the following descriptions of them as part of their harem of the king. She's numerous nights in the city of the brilliant of Athens. She who appears in the glory in the temple of the brilliant Athens. She who works, she who strikes with the fury for brilliant Athens. So while Herodotus characterized, of course, Egyptian being monogamous, we see that Egyptians are being polygamous uh, in accordance with marriages customs of the Egyptians. The priests have but one wife, but any other man takes many of these. So um, we see that in Uganda, like I said, in Uganda, it is also a custom for a king to get married to numerous wives, like someone may say to numerous wives, because polygamy is all about having more than um, one or multiple wives. It's all about having multiple wives. So polygamous in Africa over time has been losing a meaning because of very many factors that that we can of course see, that we are going to see today. There are a lot of factors that are rotating over polygamous marriages in Africa today. I see it is only Muslims. Maybe it is because of the law that governs Muslim, but I see today polygamy remains to, of course, to actually to reach Muslims in Africa. That's where I see where polygamy now remains. Though we know that polygamous marriages remain widespread in sub-Saharan Africa, so sustained by demographic factors such as high fertility, large spousal age gap, and the excess mortality. We see that as well as economic inequalities and of course women's high productive and reproductive value, we see that polygamy is common even in those in sub-Saharan setting where both legal and religious norms are supposed to discourage it. So, so talking about the Western historical experience of course of banning polygamy or of its persistence among relatively marginal religious groups, thus offers little guidance to the understanding of the relationship between Christianity and polygamy in the sub-Sahara. Nevertheless, we see that the Western experiences is not completely irrelevant, as in a broader, of course, evolutionary terms. It illustrates both transformations as key society institutions and religious adaptation to such transformations. So, the adaptation story we see that never ends, even in the settings where polygamy has been long banned. Christian churches have been, of course, continuously struggling to adjust a new yet comparable moral challenge, such as non-marital sex, childbearing, among others. We see that these adjustments typically respond to external secular pressures as well as to constraints of the religious market that churches cannot ignore. Yet, these adjustments vary greatly across dominations, usually reflecting the liberal versus the conservative spectrum. So even if the specific configuration of of this spectrum as well as the nature of adjustments are in continuous flux, we see that notably, however, showed in religious attitudes towards single motherhood among Catholic and evangelical churches and groups do not simply tolerate it as an inevitable and widespread social reality, but also seek to justify moral on religious grounds by extolling the value of motherhood and affirming their position in marriage. So, acceptability of problematic and controversial realities and and negotiability of corresponding to normative infractions may vary between religious hierarchies and congregation rank and file members. At the same time, we see that both uh, leaders and members mutually adjust their views on interests as churches of course, ideological coherence and organizational health. So, especially in the context such as um, inaudited societal challenges like HIV epidemic in South Africa, of course, in sub-Saharan Africa. So, a lot of people look at this polygamous thing as one of the tools that are where people are getting HIV, that it is where people are spreading HIV so much. But we say that HIV is too recent, is too young, more than the polygamous system in Africa is too young, is too recent than the polygamous kind of system in Africa. So, uh, so we see that um, we see that uh, uh, we see that um, so looking at uh, in of course in the generic of Christian of course repudiation of polygamy vary in strength of consequences across domination churches that are typically more accepting, like pre or non Christian traditions. However, Christianity adapted those traditions might be or tend to be more tolerant to polygamy than churches that, for ideological and, of course, marketing reasons, have taken more definitive negative stance on such traditions that were in Africa. So, um, the religion itself in Africa, um, like it, this is of course, one of the key reasons, one of the major reasons why we see polygamous or polygamism is fading in Africa. Whenever whenever these religious leaders, of course, engage or call upon people on different platforms, these are people that preach ill about polygamy. These people preach ill about polygamy. They will tell you verses. Bible talks about how you must be with one wife. But we know that we have characters in the Bible that had more than one wife. So a lot of controversies are rotating around polygamous system and the church. So we see that um, uh, um, we see that ideological and organizational flexibility with respect to polygamy should vary across different scenarios, and the polygamy that may become more or less tolerated. For example, we see polygamy. The burden of sin or plural marriage may rest with the converts. Previous church, which oversaw their entry into the second union. Hence, the new church regards the domination should be more accepting of such faith or contrary than the wish of current married member to take the second wife. So, in addition, the church stance on polygamy should vary by individual's role in the congregation. So, second and the higher order marriages may be deemed particularly in acceptance for the church leaders whose compliance with the church canon may be viewed as more consequential for the church's ideological and organizational well-being than its simple parishioner. So, however much um, we see um, a lot of things are happening, the name of we see that another factor would be sibuulidde nekyetaaga kugamba nga tumala ki wakoleeta bwekasoke. We see that another factor, we see that polygamy in Africa has been declining over time due to a variety of key factors and reasons. Um, One of the reasons that can't be left out that are making polygamy to decline in Africa, it is the economic incentives that we see in Africa. As economies grow and modernize, the economic benefits of polygamy diminish. So the practice is less common in parts of Africa where women have historically been important in agriculture. So, um, economic incentives. Um, we know that there are societies here in Africa where we see like a woman wakes up in the morning. Here in Uganda, we even have a tribe that is known for that. Women wake up in the morning, they go to garden, like so. Some people had a thought that if at all they have those big families there, someone has a lot of women, is going to be, of course, relieved from these family or agricultural incentives like digging, stuff, among others. So another reason that is making, of course, um, polygamy to decline in Africa is the increased cost of living. So the rising cost of living makes it financially challenging to support multiple spouses and their children. We see that the cost of living in very many African countries, however, a lot of people don't talk about this, but the cost of living is high. The cost of living is high, starting with the rent. Food is expensive. So it makes it so hard for someone to marry more than one wife when he is not economically stable, if the wallet is not huge. So for me, I see um, polygamy remains for rich people. Like in Uganda, those are people I normally watch, and the Muslims, by the I normally watch, they're having a lot of women. It starts with having financial stability. Are you able to feed these people? Are you able to make these people survive? And things have changed now. Ancient life is so different from the modern life. Sometime back, there were no things of I'm taking children to school, but everything has changed today. But everything has changed today. As you think about marrying 100 women, becoming polygamous in any style you want, you think about Yango Sim. You also think about taking these kids at school, and things are worse now. The entire education system, even after taking your kid at school, that kid has to get back and you take care of the same kid. The kid gets home, mommy, I'm not seeing the job. So it still depends on the parent. So that lack of let's say, era njagirira kulayiva oba bafa baffe. Njagirira kulayiva oba bafa baffe oba bafa baffe. Wee 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 wee. What a pity. Mire what you say. You're gonna believe.
tugisembize emabega tetuukayo
Tetuukayo
mabega
eki
laptop alina kafulaaga
alina ki?
kafulaaga emabega
Temusobola kulya nga temunnakola.
ebatufuuya
Ibijaba yesterday said, are we going to see Maria eating today?
Kibudde ku nsonga ki nanti nsonga ki
Increased in cost of living is one of the factors that have made these polygamous kind of families, marriages to decline.
ne religion
Oli alowooza agula ekikomando kya 15,000.
all right meanwhile polygamous Sophia, the increased cost of living and all that comes with the modernity, and of course the economy now has hindered has hindered decision making about very many things, and among them the kind of marriage someone chooses, I mean, is of course.
Wait, when we talk about the polygamous marriage, is it someone to get like someone to be officially married with someone, like he stays with his wives, or because we have seen people
having concubines.
Yeah, having concubines.
Concubines are not legal. Concubines are not legal.
It is not polygamous.
Concubines are not legal, and it's not polygamous.
It's not polygamy.
Concubines, concubines actually, and having concubine is like having a side chick. Having concubines is like having a side chick. Now, these concubines are other women you have aside the major woman or the major wife, but concubines
So
usually
you
were
can
used on king were used among kingdoms.
so
The kings.
it is okay for you to have uh, your your theory wives
Mm,
with some for concubines.
mm.
Mm,
Now concubine came, or concubine can be very much considered
mm,
in kingdoms,
mm,
kingship where there is leadership or power.
mm,
Okay, because among all the women there was only one queen. You
mm,
understand?
mm,
So
mm, mm,
other
mm,
women
mm,
aside this queen were concubines.
mm,
But according to kings, they would even marry these women.
mm,
You
mm,
say that?
mm,
I'm just giving that as side chick stuff because that is the modernity now.
mm,
We hardly hear about kingdoms anymore.
mm,
But these concubines were known. The main wife or the queen knew about the concubines.
mm,
The concubines also knew their role.
mm,
And each time they would call upon the wives of the kings to come and sit, the major queen, and these concubines actually would even respect this queen because apart from being their co-wife, she's their queen.
mm, mm,
So you would find them seated, and the major wife, the queen, was there. So we don't have two queens in the palace,
mm,
or we don't have two queens in the kingdom.
mm,
It is either the major queen who is known
mm,
and who gives birth to, of course, the next king,
mm,
and then these other concubines
mm,
that the king will have an affair with. Even the queen will know now my husband is going to have sex with the first concubine
mm,
or the second, and they will even have kids.
mm,
But they will also know these children belong to the other concubine.
mm.
All right, so that was it. I think I don't know how Europeans put their stuff and how they grade all level these whole things, but having a side chick
Mm,
who is not legally or known,
mm,
is not someone who is not known by your family,
mm,
someone who is not known by the public. No matter how you tell this person that you're my wife,
mm,
actually they aren't.
mm,
Now we have had a lot of incidences whereby somebody's just gonna be having, and this usually happens. Someone is just having, sex, having children.
mm,
Okay,
mm,
they're having sex, they're having children, they are cohabiting. They're having sex, they're having children, and the parent, both the sides doesn't know.
mm,
The man's family doesn't know that this man has
mm,
a wife.
mm,
The woman's family doesn't know that our daughter has a wife.
mm,
And then what happens is these people lying to themselves that we are husbands
mm,
and wife. And usually, where the issue comes, what is the difference between you and the side chick? What makes the major woman different from the side chick? Because you coming into you us sleeping together every day, every now and then, and we are not traditionally married according to the demands of African society. I'm just as a side chick as those other side chicks.
mm.
Now, and this is where you find the issue. Someone goes ahead and when the man dies, mm-mm, you just come and you want everyone to know, I was his wife. Who knows you?
Ohedera ya
Uh-huh.
mayabadde mukazi we.
Uh.
Mhm.
Here William says, "What's up, people? Hope all is well today. Busy Friday. All right, Ken Williams, you're welcome. What's up? We are doing good. How are you?
Alwadde.
Look on me. Not all your brains.
Olaze emmanja zokka. Olaze emmanja zokka. Mm, mm. So, like my concern was, polygamy. This is the kind of marriage system where we see someone is marrying or is having multiple wives, right?
Mm.
But these are married. These wives are married,
Mm.
whether traditional or
Mm.
what they are known.
Mm.
So what I was asking, someone has married those three wives. Now he's going like nagenda nasigala nga azaalazaala mpaka zabala abatamanyikiddwa.
Mm.
What's the kiba kiyita batya?
Bueno.
Adultery.
Mm.
Because the other one bali bo baba bamanyikiddwa.
Ken Williams says that Africa needs to stop practicing polygamy.
Mm,
You must have money to live that lifestyle.
mm,
Mhm.
mm,
And I will agree with Ken Williams to a certain extent, but I also say
mm,
if at all, the problem why Williams says such a thing
mm,
is because we have a lot of people who are deciding.
mm,
You are in a polygamous marriage for the wrong reasons.
mm,
You are in a polygamous marriage because you cannot stick to one woman. You are in a polygamous marriage for the major issue of sex and probably having variety or different children. In Africa, there is a proverb that usually says that it is good for a man to have children somewhere else. What if this woman produces to you a certain type of children, maybe who are in discipline or whatever?
mm,
So most of men, and the proverb says that you cannot count, you don't count men that belong to children that belong to a man.
mm.
It's like a taboo. You cannot ask a man like how many children
Children
do
do
you
you
have
have? Mm,
in Africa, because maybe someone is gonna lie to you. But
mm,
I see you guys went back to eating on camera. Can we? We don't.
mm.
People do that. This is not only us who be eating on camera, but well, you haven't eaten, Ken Williams, or it's morning over there. No, we have to eat. When I told you before, whenever we sit here, this is the time that we have left school and we have come back home. Eating food at the school canteen is quite expensive. So we come and cook ours. You can see when Innocent was here and I was busy cooking. Anyway. So like I was saying, a lot of people a lot of people join or engage in polygamous marriages for the wrong reasons, which wasn't the case before. And actually, if you really know about polygamy, I can guarantee you it is very hard for you to complain about money. If you understand why you are in this polygamous marriage or in this polygamous relationship, it may be hard for you to complain about money, really. And it can only work out if the women you are marrying also understand. They are all on the same, page with you as a man, and they agree with this. And they agree with this. All right. So, you um
Nakesa mu comment.
you want to very
Kajja mutagejja kwaffe. Tegera.
Nani comment kinene. Nani comment kinene. So A lot of people join this without
Reason, genuine
no,
reason.
no, no, yeah. You cannot join polygamous marriage because you as a man you want to. It should be something that both the women you want to unite in this game wish for or
Mm,
understand or want.
mm,
Now it is one thing for someone to say, I will just let my husband be polygamous because I don't want to lose him. But deep inside you don't want actually to be in this polygamous marriage.
mm,
It is another thing for someone to know, for someone to understand the reason why, which is extremely hard nowadays. It is not an easy thing for you to wake up and know that you're going to share another woman with your husband. More especially that someone you of course love.
mm.
Now we have seen a lot of things, and we K. William says that why do Africa worry about all the wrong things instead of getting control of Africa? What do you mean by the wrong things, K. Williams? You can mention one, and then probably I will start from there to elaborate a little bit. I don't want to say what you have not said. So I hope what I'm thinking is not what you're saying. So what mention one, what is that exactly? Is it about the polygamous thing that
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Korea.
Mm.
No. Forget it over.
Lakini kama tuna maradhi, tuna mara okay, hii ni wakati wa Afrika.
What does that mean? Yeah, if at all it is the polygamous thing you are like, I know maybe there are many things, but if this is among, you should understand that the reason why Africa as a whole is failing to control Africa is because we have failed to control the family system. Everything starts from the root. People just don't wake up one time and they boom, they become something, or and this is why we have like a lot of people who don't even understand the struggle because all these things are not being told in families.
Mm.
So we cannot skip family. Okay, someone may look at the family system as something so minor. We want to have presidents, but we remember good leaders start from good families. We want to have good people take control. This grooming starts from families. I believe so. So it is something that is very important, though it may seem to be a very tiny unit in this whole thing. You know, K. William says tribalism, religion, things like that. Tribalism, religion. Now this and this still building things, uniting with other Africa. You cannot unite with other Africa if at all you are. We have, by the way, um, you cannot unite. Uniting comes of, or let me say, someone wanting or willing, or someone having. Good day, 11 a.m. Jibjaba, thank you for coming. Someone having that love to share or to have a strong bond with other people outside their family or their territories. It's something that grows within an individual. Last time we were here talking with INNOSSETU about the difference between people who were raised in uh, nuclear and extended families. You understand? You realize that people who have been in a family that comprises of very many different people, they learn to live with other people. They even extend their love, true love, beyond the boundary of blood relations. Because for them it is okay. And they have seen this. They are not so greedy about sharing and other things. So, so K. Williams says that how is polygamy help in Africa? Everyone has their own point of view and how they view things. And I think we all view things according maybe to the direction where we are standing at. And um, polygamous may not be a help to Africa. Like someone may think, or if you're gonna have polygamous, then you're gonna control economical issues. You mentioned a point up there when you were saying that African people should stop being polygamous because they don't have money. And I also told you that people are going into polygamous marriages because they are going into polygamous marriages for wrong reason. If you were to go into polygamous marriage for the right reason, definitely it is going to survive. And it is okay, not everyone is supposed to have a polygamous, because this wasn't a must for the Africans. It was someone's willingness to do something. When you look, what before even I reread the question of K. Williams, I will also ask you this question. Meanwhile, I'll be responding to your question. Why do you think it was so important for the colonizers or the Europeans to remove or to scrape or to remove polygamous system from the African system, and they imposed one wife, one man? Why do you think, on why do you think, Jib Jabba, have you seen us eating? We are not even eating. All right. We have put our food aside, and so don't worry. Don't let that worry you. Don't let that bother you. Um, why do you think the European and come in, why do you think um why do you think the Europeans or the colonizers saw it as a duty or as something that they would wish to do to remove polygamous marriages? You know, when you're not in Africa, it may be very hard for you to understand this thing. And this is why I said maybe both of us are seeing this point of view according to where we are we are standing. But I will wait for K. Williams to respond to that question about why do you think it was important for the Europeans to scrap away that polygamous.
Maria, do you support polygamy? That is from Williams. That's funny, okay. William, do you
For
support
I like me as a person. First of all, um, mm, me as a person, me as Maria, as a person, I wouldn't and I don't support, or I wouldn't wish to have a husband and then he marries other women. Not because of the issue of money, but because I know not a lot of people don't understand the purpose of polygamous. We have seen a lot of women killing others. We have seen some women killing other women's children. There is too much chaos. And where does this chaos come from? The little knowledge people have about this whole thing, and whether people like it or not. Now, what is it? If someone wakes up and says one wife, one woman, but again, people cannot swear, or people, oh, sorry, because you say swear in America, it means uttering something, which is chaff. Swearing, so, but I mean, this, we have another swear that people use here, like, uh,
Saying
like making an oath. But people will not make an oath that they cannot only have sex with that woman they have married. But it is okay for them to say, we cannot support polygamous. We don't want polygamous, one woman, one man. But again, they are having multiple other women plus extra many children outside the major home or the major marriage that they are in. So I don't know how to call that though. But you realize that the biggest population of African men, no matter how these people will be telling the world that they have only one woman, they have women out there and they have children out there. You can only realize this when your man dies.
Are you saying the Europeans started
They
polygamy?
did not start polygamy, they stopped polygamy. And the Queen even adapted that and even took it to UK. They did not start polygamous marriage. They stopped it. They introduced religion, Christianity, which was against this. And there is a certain time where marrying a second wife during the colonial times was a taboo. This was something that was prohibited by the British or by the colonizers, the German, the Dutch, whoever was, the French people. Why? So I think it is okay, despite of the fact that we all talk about the education system that we are having, we still carry the education mentality. Because each time we want to judge things, we judge it according to what we have studied in school, according to what Google is telling us, according to the statistics that of course the new world order is laying out. Because you are not knowing any statistics in Africa unless they publish it on Google. You are not understanding what's going on in Africa unless you are being told so. Now, as much as we deny about the education system, most of us are living the real education system because it is just normal. But we have seen a lot of prosperous people living in harmony. Because do you think it is okay? For example, let me use K. Williams. I'm really sorry. I'm going to use you as an example in this. Do you think it would be so okay for you, K. Williams, to have one wife that the whole world knows K. Williams has Maria, and then boom, you have other children out there. You are even so ashamed of bringing these children. You don't even want to work with these children because everyone is watching. Even your children don't even get to meet and of course get united as your children. They are living with their own different baby mamas because you are supposed to have one wife, and of course if you're supposed to have one wife, definitely it is only her children that are going to be recognized. Is it so fair? Is it fair for these children? And secondly, is it fair for this other woman? Because a lot of people, the biggest population of Africans, are denying this, but they are doing this. And the children, and this is why we have poverty. And this is why we have high levels of all these economical problems. This is also among the issues. But polygamy itself is not causing economical issues. The denial that people are living is causing economical issues. You are having these women, you are having these kids, you have not planned for them, you are always hiding in and out. How are you going to plan? You even don't want to introduce these children to your family. How are you going to plan? But the fact still remains, whether black men accept it or not, they are polygamous. They be fucking around outside their major houses. They be doing this. In Africa, women know that. Even if your husband comes back home at 6 p.m., women know that. Even pastors do that. Even the most holy people claiming to be holy do that bullshit. Why do we have all these instabilities? Why do we have a lot of African young children? You can go in and Google. A lot of African young children are being raised by single mothers. Not because their mothers died. Yes, some others have, not because their fathers died. Yes, some others have lost their father. But you can Google this. A lot of youths, a lot of young people in Africa are being raised by single mothers. Not because their mothers have failed, but because there is a one woman, one wife rule that the African men cannot contain. That is not drafted for the African men. It is just so sweet for you to say. It sounds so sweet for you to say, one wife, one woman. It is a sweet thing, right? But what is your action? Now we are having a lot of bitter children out there who don't even know what it means to be loved by their father, who don't even know what it means to leave a family that has a man supporting it. Because of this thing, if at least it was something that there is a difference of something being forced on you, like the law is forcing you to do this. It is just in this man's nature. It is just in this man's nature. And I think there is nothing the world can do about it. If a child is being raised by a mother, of course, a woman is going and this is why we have a lot of women. Others are having different children from different men. The moment this man knows she has pregnanted this woman, now he doesn't want to come back. And another man comes in the picture. I'm going to take care of your child, and I'm going to be responsible of your child. And the next time you date for some time, and the moment boom, you are pregnant, this man is also going. And we have had all this disorganization. Because one thing, I'm so afraid the moment I take you home, my major marriage is going to break. I'm going to be condemned by the society. Everyone is going to judge my actions. I don't support polygamy. Me, I support people who know how to run polygamy to do it. Me, I wouldn't do that. And like I said, I can never be this. I may get married to a man and maybe he chooses to have a side chick or another woman. I can never, and I can never come into someone's marriage when I know this man has a wife. Not even dating you for 2 weeks. I can't. Not even dating you for a day. But you never go to tell Tutu to go and buy water. I can't. But a lot of people, someone will say, me, I want to be another second or third wife or whatever. I don't want to be the major wife or stuff, to be heartbroken or stuff like that. It is still the same. Except that I as Maria, I don't have the conscience to do that. To come into a marriage and then and I'm probably the side chick, or even if you're gonna marry me or stuff. I don't have that strength. Why is polygamous not working? Now it is like an evil thing to do.
Um, Talking about the declining, of course, polygamous system, it is attributed to a lot of factors, uh, ranging from political, social, and of course economic factors. And one of like I started with the economic factors or economic reasons that are making the polygamous system to decline nowadays in African societies. Having increased the cost of living among African societies. We are seeing a lot of African societies are trying as so much as possible to develop, and this kind of development has come with a lot of negative impacts to the society, to the societal norms, like what we are talking about today. It is very hard for now today to see, whenever people think about what their people are going to eat, what someone is going, like what where the children are going to be educated from. That is a serious man. They quit this kind of polygamous system that we see. Someone will think out, like for me, I use like I use like $35 a week. Someone, maybe someone, this is someone's life, uses $35 per person a week. Now, and his family maybe. Now, if at all there are three women in picture with children, how will it be? So it makes so too much budgeting. I don't mean budgeting, but increase the cost of living among the societies that we are living in doesn't encourage any more polygamous system.
baba bipulaninga bubi batwale mu kyalo balime emmere
Hmm?
bw'ogipulaninga bubi batwale mu kyalo balime emmere
Abaana
ne maama waabwe
balina emmere. So you think buli omu agenda kubeera mu kyalo? So the other thing is about the women's education. We see that there is an increase in women's education, which of course correlates with the decline in polygamy. Educated women are more likely to seek monogamous relationships. Prior, we used to actually simanyi oba ne mu kyalo kyabo. I don't know whether it also happened in your village or in your place.
Why?
They were not educating women. Why? Abantu b'edda, why is it that they were not educating you?
Anti bo balina biriifu
Yeah.
omwana atagasa kika kyabwe kiseera agenda afumbirwa agende kadda edda tebaddanga
For me, I have my aunties. They are not educated, but they have educated all their children, but they are not educated.
aba n'abawala kabaaleeta ntonda baamutwala nga teyadda omuzadde atunuulira okwesitingira ssente zaabwe abalala batwale
Mm.
kubanga beerabidde baana baabwe nti abamaama okutwala olwamutwala omumwaka yamala kabanga ki nga taddanga baabwe ebintu edda basinga omwana omuwala noga ati abantu bamanyi kati abantu bapreparinga baana baabwe basomesa for one reason nti mukesa omusajja bw'avaawo oba bw'abeera asinga maama ndya
So another reason is, of course, the health concerns, the health and social concerns. We see that polygamy has been linked to issues such as lower saving rates, the spread of HIV, and high levels of child mortality and female depression. Because at the end, we see if at all this polygamous man leaves picture, these women remain with single parents. Even when some of these parents, some of these men are still around, still women remain single parents. But these are men that go on marrying whatever woman they feel like, which makes everything. And I think HIV was also brought
yali asula
to kill the family system.
HIV was strategized for the homosexual ate gwe linda abasiyazi balina ekirwadde kibagenda babulinda kyekaka amasa Because this is why HIV was prominent. Sorry, was common in the prominent people.
Mm.
The prominent people, all these people who, in fact, prominent people have been in the Boston, they are the ones in South Africa, the ones who got HIV in different places.
Mm.
And if you look at countries like the US, UK, most of the people who died of HIV were homosexual celebrities, musicians who were doing homosexuality. So, yeah.
Mm.
Why was South Africa was the center of HIV in Africa,
Mm.
and South Africa was a place that had high levels of homosexuals
Mm.
in Africa, and until now it is still.
Mm.
So, yeah. Now, yeah, after most of these people who were just getting to be homosexual were people who didn't know how to run this thing. They were bisexuals.
Mm.
They were having sex with both their uh, and most of the people they were having sex with they were
Mm.
white celebrities and white artists.
Mm.
They would have sex with these people and then come back home and still have sex with their wives.
Mm.
And the struggle and other side chicks and the struggle continues. And that is how HIV by the way was spreading. Even if you are to still but anyway, it was destroying the family system was one thing, and also controlling the population was another. When HIV spread in the early 90s, in some areas, a lot of people were even afraid of getting married or having relationships because the testing, where the information was, people were little, sorry, people had little education
Mm.
about this whole thing. Even if others thought it was witchcraft, see, others thought maybe it was another epidemic, they didn't know it was something that they have gotten through sex.
Mm.
Until those who moved outside, let me say Uganda to go like to South Africa, is when they knew this was transmitted through sex. And then we saw a lot of people advocating for this all over. And then people got to know it is through sex that people are acquiring this kind of, and of course, other measures that required. We're not going to have a plan.
Mm.
None of your dad or anybody.
Yeah,
Oh, in the bathroom.
but the Christian, of course, context about polygamy and how, of course, religion, like this Christianity in Africa, reduced polygamous system of life in Africa. We see that there are contexts in the Bible that condemn polygamy. Looking at Christianity, we see that in the biblical perspective, the Old Testament. By the way, do you know the Old Bible? Do you know? Eh? But the Old Testament contains examples of polygamy among figures like Abraham, Jacob, David, and Solomon. However, it doesn't actively encourage polygamy. We see that the law even mandates polygamy in specific cases, such as when a married man dies without leaving a male heir, homoseka, and his brother is required to marry the widow. This is stupidity. But it is stupidity. So the other is Jesus and the New Testament. We see that Jesus did not directly address polygamy, but he emphasized the importance of monogamy. While the New Testament doesn't explicitly forbid polygamy, most Christian groups historically uphold monogamy as a norm.
Jesus said what they are was. Hali mu Bible lwaki bagamba teyawasa? Abasigazi bagamba yali munnaabwe. Muna eddiini ekikkiriza olaba ne Yesu yabeerako basajja bokka nga
Bamutambulirako.
naye ngajjukira eyakola eyo bajoni naye musiyazi King David. Eyawandiika eyo Bible ya King David yali musiyazi. nga bagamba ate Yesu yali polygamous.
Yali polygamous. Yes,
Ku bitabo bye bakweka.
Cerebral. Jesus was a
Era
celebrity.
kyobula ne bakristu batuuze.
Jesus was a celebrity. That was possible. I've seen a lot of celebrities marrying more than.
Yesu wa bulijjo.
Eh?
Yesu wa bulijjo.
No, very many women get admired to be celebrities. Jesus was one of them.
Omume Magdalene oyo abamenya Maria no yali yetunda.
Maria Magdalene.
Maria Magdalene yali yetunda.
I don't know.
Ngo omukazi yali yetunda oyo. Abantu be baayagala okuba.
I don't know.
Okukola n'abeera ng'amugulira nga yamunaaza ebigere yamukola bukyali. Naye ali mukazi we.
I will just see about the Bible.
Ebigere bikadde bwe bigamba. Mbeera